Scorching heat apocalypse. The thermometer burst with a pop. Outdoor temps at night had skyrocketed to 90 degrees Celsius. People searching for water everywhere, looked like meat on a grill, their skin sizzling. The city was filled with raging fires from the heat, illuminating the whole city. Now a drop of water cost a fortune, but I opened a bottle of water and poured it into a self-heating hot pot, ready to enjoy my dinner. Bang bang bang. Someone was pounding on the door. Outside, my boyfriend Zhang Hao was hoarsely begging, "Xiao Yu, please, just a sip. Toilet water. Even foot bath water will do." I peered through the peephole and saw Zhang Hao and his so-called true love, Lin Weiwei, slumped outside my door. Both had chapped lips, pale faces, like fish thrown ashore. Once upon a time, Zhang Hao coldly said to me, "Let's break up. You're not good enough for me." Then he turned and held Lin Weiwei in his arms. Lin Weiwei smiled like a poisonous flower, soaked in water, full of smugness. But now they've sunk to begging for my foot bath water. In my past life, they tricked me out of my parents' house and ate up my last stash of food and water. Finally, when I was too weak to stand, Zhang Hao, with Lin Weiwei, pushed me off the rooftop. The wind whistled past my ears, and what hit the ground was my worthless life and their triumphant laughter. But what they didn't expect was that I would be reborn 15 days before the apocalypse. When I woke up from that rebirth, I was sitting on the sofa, facing Zhang Hao's disgusting face. "Qin Yu, let's break up." His tone was matter-of-fact, even with a hint of condescension. "You're great, but the one I truly love is still Weiwei. She's back. I can't let her down." I looked up at him, and then at the person behind him, that woman putting on a pitiful act. My heart felt like it was wrapped in ice, cold and painful, yet eerily clear-headed. "Fine," I heard my own voice, unusually calm. "Then get the hell out." Zhang Hao was stunned. Clearly, he hadn't expected this reaction. In the past, I should have cried and begged him not to leave. Should have reflected on what I did wrong. Should have offered him everything good I had, just to get him to look at me. Lin Weiwei spoke softly, weakly. "Xiao Yu, don't be like this. Hao is doing this for your own good." "For my own good?" I laughed. Cut her off. "For my own good? That means eating my food, living in my place, and then pushing me down the stairs?" Both their faces changed instantly, as if they'd seen a ghost. "What nonsense are you talking about?" Zhang Hao forced himself to stay calm, but the panic in his eyes gave him away. "Qin Yu, calm down. I just wanted to test your feelings for me, how deep they really are." "Test?" I stood up and pointed at the door. "Test me, huh? Zhang Hao, who do you think you are? Take your Lin Weiwei, right now, immediately, and get the hell out. Say one more word, and I'll throw boiling water on you. Believe it?" Maybe the hatred in my eyes was too real, too terrifying. The two of them didn't dare to say another word. They slunk away. The moment the door closed, the world fell silent. I leaned against the door and took a deep breath. No time for sadness. No time for anger. The digital calendar on the wall showed June 30th. Until global water resources are completely depleted, only 15 days left. I walked to the window, looking out at the world bleached by the scorching sun. This apartment of mine is in a prime location. Crazy expensive, but it's on the lowest floor. In this scorching apocalypse, the bottom floor is an oven. It's a death trap. Can't stay here anymore. I have to start preparing. I picked up my phone. First call went to the real estate agent. "Xiao Li, this apartment in Xingfu Li. Need to sell urgently. Must sell within 3 days. Price can be 10% below market. Your commission, I'll pay double." Xiao Li was startled. "Yujia, are you okay? The market is unstable right now. Selling in a hurry, you'll take a big loss. And your floor. Don't ask, just do it." I cut him off. 3 days, not even one more day. Hung up. I pulled out all my credit cards and online loan apps, started maxing them out like crazy, maxed out all limits, borrowed every penny I could. These paper notes will soon become worthless paper. Next, supplies. My fingers were a blur, placing orders on my phone. Drinking water, ordered 500 barrels straight up. Food, military rations, compressed biscuits, self-heating hot pot, rice, flour, oil, sent by the ton to my temporary rented warehouse. Medicine, antibiotics, cold medicine, painkillers, vitamins. Almost emptied the entire pharmacy. Bought 5 diesel generators. Stockpiled 10 large barrels of diesel. Entrenching tool, climbing rope, binoculars, drone, solar charging panels. The list was endless. The supplier called to confirm the order. His tone was incredulous. "Miss Chen? Are you opening a supermarket or going on a wilderness survival?" I kept a straight face, organizing a large-scale survival experience event for a live stream. "Oh, okay, well, quite the investment." Skeptical, the person hung up. In the afternoon, I drove to the mountains on the outskirts to check out a house. A single-family villa halfway up the mountain. Great view. It came with a sturdy underground storage room, and because of the altitude and vegetation, the temperature was at least 7 or 8 degrees cooler than in the city. The landlord was in a hurry to go abroad. The price was practically a steal. I barely hesitated and signed the contract on the spot. The money from selling my house plus the huge amount of cash I cashed out, exactly enough to pay. I secured the villa. I walked into the underground storage room to check it out. Suddenly, I noticed there was a special storage cabinet inside the storage room. When I got close, the cabinet was actually glowing with fluorescent light. It was especially glaring in the dim light. As if possessed, I pulled open the cabinet door. Inside was a piece of broken glass, or maybe a gemstone. I carefully picked it up. A sharp pain shot through my fingertip. A drop of crimson blood was seeping from my fingertip, right on target. It dripped into my palm, onto that faintly glowing piece of glass. Suddenly, something changed. I cried out in pain. I felt a scorching hot stream raging up along the meridians of my arm, rushing straight into my mind. Everything went black before my eyes. Then an endless white light exploded. A feeling of spinning completely swallowed me. When I regained my senses and steadied myself, the sight before me left me frozen in place. The cold, damp, dusty smell of the basement was all gone. I stood in an indescribable space. There was no sun above. Yet, it was filled with an even, soft light, like eternal dawn. Underfoot was moist, dark soil, soft and springy, to step on, giving off the unique fragrance of earth. I looked around in confusion. This space was astonishingly large. Where is this? I murmured to myself. An absurd yet exhilarating thought struck my consciousness like lightning. Could it be space? Fragments of memories from my past life struggling to survive the apocalypse came flooding back. The legends about ability users and storage spaces were once myths passed among survivors. I forced down the turmoil in my heart, tried to focus, and thought, out and run. The moment the thought came, the scenery around me rippled like water again, and the cold basement enveloped me once more. I was still standing in front of the storage cabinet, as if everything just now was an illusion, but the tiny wound on my palm that hadn't fully healed, and the vast space so clear in my mind, screamed at me. That wasn't a dream. Overjoyed, I concentrated again. With a flash, I was back in that softly lit, fragrant world. It's real. It's really real. My whole body trembled with excitement. Having been reborn, I knew better than anyone what such a space meant. In the coming apocalypse, it was the greatest guarantee of survival. I practically stumbled out of the basement, raced to the kitchen on the first floor of the villa, grabbed an apple from the fruit bowl on the table, re-entered the space, carefully placed the apple on the empty ground, and stared at it. 1 minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the apple is still red and plump, radiating a fresh shine, no change at all. I run out again and bring back a cup of hot water and a piece of bread. The hot water placed in the space doesn't cool down at all. The bread remains soft after a long time, no signs of hardening or mold. Time stands still. Time here is frozen. I'm so excited I almost shout out loud. What does this mean? It means I can store food indefinitely, medicine, water. It means I'll have a giant mobile warehouse that never spoils. To test the capacity and retrieval method, I start a crazy experiment. Focus my mind on that apple. Come out. The apple instantly appears in my hand. Put it in. The apple returns to its original spot. I try pressing my hand on the kitchen storage shelf, mentally chanting, retrieve. The entire shelf, along with all the jars and bottles on it, instantly vanishes from its place, and appears on the black soil in the space. Retrieve at will. Size controlled by thought. I stand in the center of the space, looking at this boundless fertile land before me. An even crazier idea arises. I find a few seeds and scatter them randomly on the black soil. Almost visibly, the seeds break through the soil and sprout. They start growing at an unnatural speed. The soil, it can also accelerate plant growth. I gasp. My heart pounds so hard it feels like it might burst through my chest. This wasn't just storage space. It was the prototype of a self-sufficient, eco-fortress. A massive wave of happiness washed over me. My legs gave out, and I fell to my knees on the ground. Tears streamed down my face uncontrollably. Memories of 10 years in the apocalypse surged back like icy water. Hunger, thirst, fighting over a moldy piece of bread. Watching the people around me die from illness because of a lack of medicine. The despair, the helplessness, the bone-deep fear, now all turned into endless gratitude for this gift before me. Heavens. No, it is the heavens. That gave me a second chance, and bestowed upon me such a divine artifact? I lifted my head, letting the hot tears stream down my cheeks. I clenched my fist tightly, my nails digging deep into my palm, bringing a sharp sting. The pain made me even more certain that this was not a dream. After the ecstasy came unprecedented calm and determination. The apocalypse was coming. This time, I'm going to stockpile. This is no longer a desperate countdown. Instead, it's the heaven-sent unique golden preparation period. Food, water, medicine, weapons, energy, seeds, tools, every survival supply imaginable. I must hoard them like crazy as much as I can. This infinite space where time stands still will be my strongest backup. At night, my phone rang. It was Xiaoli. There's something I'm not sure I should tell you. Spit it out. That house of yours, someone just came to see it. They're very interested. They barely negotiated the price. Said they can sign the contract and pay in full tomorrow. It's just, that person seems to be your ex-boyfriend, Mr. Zhang. I let out a cold laugh. Just as I expected, he thought I went crazy from the shock and was dumping my property. He was trying to grab a bargain, sell it to him. As long as the money's right, anyone's fine. The next day, signing the contract, Zhang Hao showed up as expected, and with him was that clingy Lin Weiwei. She was as impeccably dressed as ever, fully armed against UV rays. Seeing me without makeup, dressed in a casual t-shirt and shorts, her eyes immediately filled with undisguised contempt. Chen Yu, how did you end up like this? You know, for a woman, the most important things are face and elegance. No wonder Zhang Hao dumped you back then. Look at you, not a bit of a woman's grace. I was busy checking the contract terms, too lazy to even lift my head. You're elegant. You're pretty. Even if you were covered in diamonds, you'd still have to beg me to sell you the house. Shut up. Don't get in the way of my counting money. Lin Weiwei's face twisted with anger. Zhang Hao tugged at her. He looked at me with a complex expression. Lin Weiwei was so mad, her face was all twisted. Zhang Hao tugged at her. He gave me a complicated look. Xiao Yu, why do you have to be like this? I know you're angry. But I bought this house to help you. Don't. I raised my hand to stop him. I picked up the signed contract and put my copy into my bag. We're square. We owe each other nothing from now on. Transfer the property now. Then both of you, get out of my sight. Holding the heavy bank card, I watched them drive away. A cold curl finally appeared at the corner of my mouth. Go ahead and buy all you want. With the money from the house my parents poured their hearts into, let's see how long you'll last in the apocalypse. I returned to the villa. My phone buzzed. It was the old neighborhood owners group. It was buzzing. Almost everyone was complaining about the weather. This damn weather. It's been raining for almost a week, and it won't stop. Mushrooms are growing on the balcony. Yeah, the clothes can't dry. Everything smells moldy. So annoying. The forecast says another half month of rain. What's going on? I watched the complaints scrolling on the screen, a cold smile curling on my lips. Endless rain, mold. They'll never know this is just before the apocalypse. Nature's most gentle disguise. This global downpour won't last long, but in just a few days, it won't just dampen clothes, but quietly change the environment, setting the stage for extreme weather and a terrible virus to thrive, laying the groundwork. But now, no one would believe a rain could be the start of the end of the world. I didn't post in the group. I just quietly muted notifications. I and them, we're no longer in the same world. Step 1. Reinforce the villa. This is my future ground base. It must be rock solid. I contacted a local, top-rated security engineering company. I directly requested the highest level of protection. All windows replaced with bulletproof, reinforced alloy glass. Install sturdy security grills inside and out. All doors, including the basement door, swapped to the highest security level, bank vault-grade doors. The entire villa's walls, especially the perimeter wall, reinforced and embedded with high-voltage pulse fence. I got the blueprints and core components through Uncle, a friend of my late father. The crew installed the outer parts. The roof is also reinforced and covered with a hidden solar panel array as backup power. Most critical is the surveillance. I demanded the entire villa area, including all blind spots around the walls, even the public areas within 100 meters outside, to be covered by full coverage, Ultra HD, night vision and motion detection cameras. And I specifically emphasized that all surveillance must have an independent power supply. I directly ordered large industrial-grade battery banks and redundant solar charging systems to ensure that even in extreme conditions, this surveillance network can run for at least a year. When the project manager saw my requirements list, his eyes popped. He double-checked. Ma'am, these specs, aren't they overkill? The cost is enormous. Without batting an eye, I said, "Security's been bad lately. I have some valuable collectibles to store here, just for peace of mind. Money's not an issue. I only have one requirement, absolute reliability, and as fast as possible. Use the best materials. With a hefty reward, brave men will step up." The construction team immediately pulled together their best workers. They started construction in 3 shifts. The deafening noise attracted inquiries from a few nearby residents. I fobbed them off by saying it was a full-scale renovation that was a bit loud. Watching the villa day after day get wrapped in thick metal and glass, gradually turning into a cold fortress, my sense of security grew little by little. At the same time, my grand plan for stockpiling in the space officially kicked off. With the space as a magical tool, my stockpiling strategy completely opened up. No longer limited to shelf-stable canned goods and compressed biscuits, but aimed for variety, as complete as possible, and the highest quality possible, especially fresh-cooked food and ready-to-eat delicacies. I drove to the largest farmers market and agricultural technology company. In the post-apocalyptic later stages, fresh fruits and vegetables are more precious than gold. Since the black soil in my space has a magical effect of accelerating growth, I must make full use of it. Boss, a variety of vegetable seeds, tomatoes, cucumbers, greens, Chinese cabbage, radishes, peppers. Give me 10 pounds of each. Also fruit seeds, watermelon, strawberry, muskmelon, even apple and pear seeds will do. I'll take as many as you have. And grain seeds, rice, wheat, high-quality corn seeds, 500 pounds each. Oh, right, fruit saplings, apple, pear, orange, peach. Give me 50 saplings of each. I went on a shopping spree, leaving the seed shop owner stunned. He kept asking if I was starting a farm. I explained with a smile, yeah, I partnered with a friend to lease several hillsides. To start an eco-friendly farm, start with a variety of crops and see how it goes. That reason is barely acceptable, although the quantity I ordered for a startup farm was still too large. Besides seeds, I also bought a lot of farming books. From basic planting to pest control, even simple farm machinery repair, theoretical knowledge is just as important. I also ordered hundreds of flower pots in different sizes, and a full set of gardening tools, potting soil, fertilizer, watering cans, hose, etc. These things don't take up much space, but when I plan out the planting area in the space, they'll come in very handy. All the seeds, seedlings, and tools after being handed over in the warehouse were instantly moved into the space. They were sorted and stacked in the agriculture area I mentally designated. The memory of gnawing on moldy bread and feeling sick from spoiled canned food in my past life is unforgettable. In this life, I absolutely cannot let my stomach suffer again. Hot food, especially cooked dishes, is an absolute luxury in the apocalypse, but my space can turn this luxury into an everyday thing. I made a list of my favorite restaurants in the city, from the Chinese restaurant in a 5-star hotel to the well-known old shops in the alleys, covering all major cuisines. Time to start the operation. I first went to my favorite Sichuan restaurant and ordered all their signature dishes: poached fish in chili oil, couple's delight, mapo tofu, twice-cooked pork, and spicy chicken. I ordered 100 servings of each. The owner looked at the receipt that printed out like a banner. His hands were shaking. "Xiao you, what are you?" I had my speech ready. I put on a helpless look. "Our company is having a huge team-building event. There are several thousand people. The budget is generous. We just want everyone to eat well. We'll do it in batches. Today we just need this much. Once it's ready, just deliver to this address." To avoid revealing my location, I gave the address of a temporary rented warehouse. The owner was skeptical, but the lure of a huge order was irresistible. He immediately told the kitchen to go all out. A few hours later, dozens of huge insulated containers were delivered to the warehouse by the restaurant's truck. I came with the truck and directed the unloading. Looking at the mountain of delicious-smelling dishes, the delivery guy couldn't help asking again, "Hey, girl, your event is way too big." I smiled and handed him some water. "What can I say? Company policy. We have to make it look impressive. Thanks for the hard work, guys." After they drove off, I immediately locked the warehouse door from inside. Suppressing my excitement, I walked over to the pile of insulated containers. With a thought, along with the crates, all the food vanished instantly, reappearing in the eternally still zone of the space. Seeing the mountain of food suddenly appear in the space, an indescribable feeling of satisfaction and security welled up inside me. With my first experience under my belt, I became more cautious. I realized I couldn't keep buying in bulk from the same store. It would raise suspicion, so I started a store storming operation. At the Cantonese restaurant, I went all out. White-cut chicken, roast goose, steamed fish, all kinds of dim sum 50 portions of each. At the Shanghai cuisine restaurant, I packed red braised pork, oil-exploded shrimp, and salted pork soup, 80 portions of each. Plus whole roast duck, sliced duck meat, and the carcass. I ordered 200 of them. My favorite hot pot, I ordered hundreds of portions directly, prepackaged hot pot sets including broth, dipping sauces, and various ingredients, even steaks and pasta from Western restaurants, sushi and sashimi platters from Japanese places. I ordered a considerable quantity of each. That included 3 tons of ice and 3,000 popsicles. I used the same excuse of preparing for a big event, but spread it across different restaurants and time slots. I also changed the warehouse location a few times. Each time, I waited until the delivery person left and then quickly stored the food into my space. This process, though tedious, is absolutely necessary. Watching the space pile up with all kinds of delicious food, from steaming hot stir-fries to icy cold desserts, I knew that in this post-apocalyptic world, the quality of food had been fundamentally secured. What was left was the staple food. I contacted several large grain and oil wholesale markets and bought high-quality rice of various brands by the ton. I hoarded enough to feed one person for 100 years. High gluten, low gluten, all-purpose flour, also bought in tons. Peanut oil, canola oil, olive oil, ordered hundreds of large barrels. Salt and sugar aren't just seasonings, they're important strategic resources. I cleaned out the inventories of several wholesalers. Soy sauce, vinegar, cooking wine, oyster sauce, bean paste, hot pot base, anything you'd use in the kitchen. I packed in boxes and boxes into the warehouse, then transferred it all in an instant. Besides the 500 barrels I initially ordered, I also invested in 20 large commercial water purifiers and a massive amount of replacement filter cartridges. At the same time, I bought hundreds of large water storage barrels, planning to fill them all with tap water and seal them after the villa renovation was complete. In the space, I specially set aside a huge water area and neatly stacked bottled water like a transparent mountain. As for medicine, that was the top priority. In the apocalypse, even a cold could be fatal. Through various online and offline channels, I quietly stocked up on antibiotics, cold medicine, fever reducers, painkillers, and trauma medications, along with simple medical devices, buying in bulk. I spread the purchases across many pharmacies and medical supply companies, keeping each transaction small enough to avoid drawing attention. Little by little, it added up. Through special channels, I bought dozens of large military fuel tanks, filled them all, and stored them in a corner of the space. I also bought several gasoline and diesel generators of different power outputs, along with plenty of spare fuel. From AA and AAA batteries to car batteries and large industrial storage batteries, I stockpiled everything imaginable in large quantities. Clothes for all seasons, from underwear and socks to down jackets and ski wear, multiple sets in every size, thick quilts, blankets, sleeping bags, enough to supply a small team. My life became a monotonous, busy loop, contacting suppliers, placing orders, renting temporary storage, receiving goods, moving them into the space. Every day, I could see the supplies in the space growing visibly. That sense of fulfillment greatly offset the anxiety of the impending apocalypse. Watching the numbers in my bank account drop fast, but in return, the space was piled high with enough to let me live a life better than most people in peacetime, in the midst of the apocalypse. I figured this was the best deal in the world. The reinforcement work on the villa was in full swing. Outside, the rain was still drizzling, with no sign of letting up. Complaints in the owner's group gradually faded. Maybe people were getting used to the dampness. 14 days later, my villa was finally finished. Everything was about to come together. I entered the villa. Night fell. Darkness slowly covered the world. Outside the window, the rain had stopped, unnoticed, but the air didn't become fresh. Instead, it grew even more muggy and sticky. It was as if an invisible hand had choked the city's breath. I stood at the reinforced floor-to-ceiling window in the villa. Thick bulletproof glass sealed off the outside world. The indoor climate control kept a pleasant 20 degrees Celsius. The cool air wrapped around my skin. Compared to my memory of this time in a past life, the suffocating feeling of being in a steamer was a contrast between heaven and hell. The large electronic screen on the wall was playing the nightly news. The anchor looked grave. The background showed abnormal red and yellow interwoven on the weather satellite image. The Weather Bureau issued the highest level red alert for extreme heat, due to a persistent anomalous high-pressure ridge. Starting tomorrow, our city and surrounding areas will experience historically rare extreme high temperatures. The highest temperature is expected to exceed 40 degrees Celsius and may continue to climb. Experts warn that this heatwave is intense and prolonged. It can easily cause heat stroke and other severe heat-related illnesses. All citizens must take precautions to stay cool. Do not go out unless necessary. Avoid prolonged outdoor activities. 40 degrees. A faint sneer curled at the corner of my mouth. This is just an appetizer. In my past life, this was only the prelude to a nightmare. The heat would intensify day by day until it scorched the earth and evaporated the rivers, slowly destroying the foundations of civilization. I turned off the TV. I checked the villa's power system. An independent solar array and a large battery bank showed full charge, enough to power the entire villa, including the HVAC, surveillance system, and all essential equipment long-term. The diesel generator as backup was also ready to start at any time. This fortress, built with the hard lessons of my past life and all the wealth of this life, was ready for the apocalypse. That night, I slept unusually soundly. The foreknowledge from rebirth, and the confidence from space and a sturdy shelter, kept me from being ruled by fear. The next day, I was awakened by an eerie silence. The third day? No, it wasn't silent, but the usual city background noise. The distant traffic, faint bird songs, even the hum of AC units had all vanished. In its place was a heart-stopping, amplified stillness. I walked to the window, pulled open a corner of the custom blackout curtain. The outside world looked like it had been thrown into a giant furnace. The outside world looks like it's been thrown into a giant furnace. The sky is a sick, glaring white. You can't even see the outline of the sun. But the sunlight pours down with almost physical intensity, scorching everything in sight. Heat waves rise from the ground, distorting the air. Buildings in the distance warp and shimmer in the heat, like a mirage. The plants in the yard, which were drooping from the relentless rain just yesterday, are now losing moisture visibly. Leaves curl and turn yellow. Finally, they wilt, as if their souls were drained in an instant. In just one night, the vibrant green has been replaced by a dead, withered yellow. The air is thick with a burnt smell. It's the smell of asphalt softening, mixed with plants being roasted. Through multiple layers of glass, you can still feel the heat, enough to burn your skin. The streets are empty. Even stray cats and dogs have disappeared. The whole world is like an overexposed photograph. Only blinding white and a hopeless silence remain. A fear, primal and instinctive, creeps into your heart. In my past life, it was under this heat like a dehydrated fish. I struggled and was eventually pushed off the rooftop. The burning in my throat, the painful gasping of my lungs like a bellows, the memory of every inch of skin feeling like it was being pricked and scorched, became clear again. I take a deep breath of the cool indoor air and suppress that discomfort. Turn on the TV. Local channels. They're all just looping heat warnings and emergency notices, reminding people to stay inside and stay cool. Occasionally, the screen shows empty streets and close-ups of roads warped by the heat. Then, I curiously pulled out my phone. I opened the group chat of Xingfu Li, which I sold to Zhang Hao, the owner's group of the complex. Sure enough, it was blowing up. Messages were flying by at an insane speed. Oh my god, it's only 8 a.m. It's like it's raining fire outside. All my flowers on the balcony are dead and wilted. Can't save them at all. Attached is a picture of several completely withered pots. It's not just flowers. My succulents on the windowsill turned to mush. It's terrifying. The AC, help. My AC doesn't seem to be cooling anymore. The air coming out is hot. I've called repair services like crazy. No one answers. Same here. My AC outdoor unit seems to have overheated and shut off. It just quit. The room is like a sauna now. The power's out. Our building lost power. The property management said the load is too high. The breaker tripped. They're fixing it now. But how can they fix it in this damn weather? The water pressure is low too. The water stream is as thin as a thread. How are we supposed to live like this? Who has ice water? Can you sell me some? I'll pay a high price. The kid is crying from the heat. Buying bottled water and popsicles at high prices. Anything that can cool down. DM me if you have any complaints, panic, pleas for help, and the beginning of money transactions. The messages in the group perfectly paint a picture of what it's like when a heatwave apocalypse hits ordinary people. They think it's just a rare heatwave. A few days and it'll pass. Still complaining about the plants. Still counting on repairs and public utilities. I watch silently. I don't feel much sympathy. Only a cold indifference. This is just day one. Only 104 degrees. They'll never know how long this heat will last, how brutal it will get. Their complaints now, in the face of the coming true hell, seem so pale and laughable. This is just the beginning. I murmur to myself. I turned off the group chat notifications, set it to do not disturb. A week into the heatwave, a torrential rain will come, but that's not salvation. It's destruction in another form. Like boiling rain, cooking the whole city, paving the way for even worse disasters. I took an old-school mung bean popsicle from my space, tore open the wrapper, and took a bite. The cool, sweet taste spread instantly in my mouth, driving away some of the irritation brought by the memories. Sitting in the cool indoors, enjoying this luxury in the apocalypse, and thinking back to this time in my past life, I'd probably be licking my cracked lips, staring blankly at an empty water bottle. Even a drop of clean water was a luxury. This contrast makes me cherish everything now, even more. Out of curiosity, I opened the monitoring app connected to that apartment in Xingfuli. Luckily, during the renovation, for safety, I installed tiny cameras in hidden spots in the living room and master bedroom, connected to an independent backup power and network storage. Didn't think it would come in handy. The screen shows Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei are sitting at the dining table in the living room. The AC is clearly still running. The indoor temperature must be high, but they're dressed decently. I lean back on the sofa. A slight smile curls at the corner of my mouth. I keep staring at the surveillance feed. This doomsday show is just getting started. On the table there's even steak pasta and red wine in a wine glass. Looks like they can still enjoy life in the apocalypse. Lin Weiwei cuts a small piece of steak. She elegantly puts it in her mouth. Then she pouts. How? Look at the people in the owners group. They're ridiculous. It's only the first day of the heat wave, and they're already panicking like crazy, hoarding water, complaining about the AC, no self-control at all. Zhang Hao swirls his wine glass. He chimes in, yeah, they've never seen anything. Even though this extreme weather is rare, the authorities will definitely figure something out. It'll only last a few days at most. Why hoard all that instant noodles and bottled water? Not only does it take up space, when the weather returns to normal, you'll just have to toss it. Lin Weiwei snorts, her eyes full of superiority. Exactly. Only people with a limited mindset would start hoarding at the slightest disturbance. For us, enjoying the moment is what matters. Speaking of which, isn't Chen Yu exactly that kind of person? I remember she loves hoarding all that junk food and discounted stuff. Her fridge is always stuffed full. No regard for quality of life. Zhang Hao seems to hesitate for a moment. Then he nods. She really doesn't know how to enjoy life. Always thinking it's better to be safe than sorry. Actually, a lot of things go past their expiration date untouched. Quite wasteful. So you see, Hao, leaving her was the right choice. Lin Weiwei smugly leans into Zhang Hao. Like us now, savoring red wine, enjoying steak. Isn't it so much better than eating that cheap hoarded junk with her? It's just a heat wave. Think of it as a vacation for ourselves, enjoying some alone time at home. Listening to the duo's back and forth banter, not only was I not angry, I actually laughed out loud. Stupid, without even knowing it. That's probably the best description for people like them. Enjoying their time alone, savoring steak and red wine. They probably don't realize. When the temperature crosses a certain threshold, the grid collapses, the AC stops working. These supplies they looked down on will be their only hope for survival. I turned off the surveillance, too lazy to listen to their nonsense anymore. Let them enjoy a few more days of their self-righteous high-quality life. Reality will quickly teach them what true luxury is in the apocalypse. Time passed slowly in the extreme heat. Each day, the numbers on the thermometer challenged new extremes. 45 degrees, 50 degrees, 55 degrees. The warning levels in the news kept rising, but fewer and fewer media could broadcast. The city's functions were rapidly collapsing. My villa became a true paradise. The climate control system ran steadily. The solar panels were incredibly efficient under the scorching sun. The batteries stayed fully charged. I even had the luxury of using electricity to make ice, and stored it in the space. On the 5th day, as I expected, which was also the point in my past life memory, a large-scale, prolonged blackout began. Through the surveillance and remaining network signals I saw in the owner group of Xingfuli community, the last bit of order and hope completely collapsed. Totally no power. Citywide blackout. The AC stopped. The water stopped too. Can't stay home anymore. Help, it's so hot. People are dying. Who has water? Just a sip of water. The messages became chaotic and desperate, then gradually dwindled, finally fell into dead silence. Electricity, the lifeblood of modern civilization. Once it stops flowing, it brings rapid death. I switched to the surveillance inside the house. The feed is still transmitting thanks to the backup power, but the quality has dropped. In the frame, Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei have lost their earlier composure. Both have greasy hair and disheveled clothes. Their faces show undisguised anxiety and panic. The living room air vent is dead still. Zhang Hao irritably pushes aside the steak plate on the table. That steak, once a symbol of taste, now emits a rotting smell in the heat. He rushes to the fridge, yanks the door open. A stronger sour stench hits him. The food inside, due to the power outage and heat, has long gone bad and rotten. Damn it, all spoiled. Zhang Hao angrily kicks the fridge. A dull thud. Lin Weiwei screams. What the hell is wrong with you? What do we do now? We're out of water too. The last bottle of mineral water was finished this morning. What do we do? You're asking me what to do? Zhang Hao turns and glares at her. His tone is full of resentment. I told you to stock up on instant noodles and bottled water. You said it wasn't necessary, said they'd take up space, said the heat wave would pass soon. And now, what do we eat? What do we drink? Lin Weiwei is provoked by his attitude. Her voice rises. Zhang Hao, what do you mean? Are you blaming me? When we bought these steaks and red wine, why didn't you say anything then? Now that something's gone wrong, you blame me. You don't love me anymore, do you? Zhang Hao looks at Lin Weiwei. Her face twisted by excitement and heat, he seems to sober up a bit. His tone softens, but it carries exhaustion and despair. Weiwei, I didn't mean it that way. I just thought of Chen Yu. Though at least she knew to stock up on things. At least we wouldn't be starving like this now. This undoubtedly struck a nerve with Lin Weiwei. She jumps up like a cat whose tail has been stepped on. Chen Yu, you brought up that beauty again. If she's so great, why don't you go to her? She hoards. What she hoards is all junk. A person like her deserves to be dumped. Are you regretting it now? The two of them, in this hot and stinking room, for food, for water, for their pitiful pride, began to argue fiercely. The surveillance camera silently records the ugliness of human nature in this apocalyptic setting, and I am leisurely walking downstairs to the basement. I've transformed it into a tidy and orderly storage area. Though not all supplies, it still has enough supplies to show off. On the shelves, bottled water is stacked in cases. Various canned goods, compressed food, and self-heating meals are arrayed. There's even a freezer dedicated to ice cream and snacks. I decide to prepare a hearty dinner for myself and enjoy the apocalyptic view outside at the same time. I decided to treat myself to a nice dinner and enjoy the apocalyptic scene outside. I pulled out of my space inventory the braised pork belly that was still fresh from the pan, mapo tofu, stir-fried seasonal vegetables, and a smashed cucumber salad with garlic and sesame oil. The main course was fluffy white rice. For dessert, a Haagen-Dazs ice cream scoop, and a glass of iced cola on the table. Outside, scorching heat, no water, no food. But my villa was brightly lit and cool. The table was filled with delicious-looking dishes. I even used a high-def projector to show the footage of Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei arguing, projected onto the blank wall of the dining room. Just some entertainment to go with dinner. In the video, they were exhausted from arguing, slumping onto the scorching floor. Their lips were chapped and peeling, eyes hollow. The elegance and superiority they once had long been replaced by the desperation to survive. It was the 10th day of the heat wave. The world had completely changed. They said daytime temps were nearing 60 degrees Celsius, impossible to survive. At night, it only cooled down a bit, still unbearably hot. And here I was, leisurely enjoying my dinner, watching those two in the projection, looking miserable. I felt an indescribable satisfaction. The smell of death hangs over the city. Screams, echoing in the silence, only add to the horror. I enter the space. I work the magical black soil for a while. The seeds I planted have sprouted into tender green shoots. They're growing well. After the work, I cook myself a bowl of rich Japanese ramen, with a soft-boiled egg and char siu. After eating, I check the security feed again. In the footage of that apartment in Happiness Lane, Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei are nothing but skin and bones. Like two skeletons draped in human skin, they huddle in a shady corner, too weak to even argue. Then Zhang Hao suddenly lunges at the corner, frantically rummaging. He holds up a half-empty pack of instant noodles, trembling. The wrapper is covered in dust. He tears it open, shoves the hard, dry noodle block into his mouth and chews wildly. Even the crumbs are licked clean. Lin Weiwei says weakly. She hoards so much, there must be food at her place. In their despair, they finally think of me. Think of the hoarding they once scorned. They use their nearly dead phones to contact the agent. Outside, the sky turns ominous. A storm is coming. After the extreme heat comes a baptism of scalding rain. Torrential rain pours down without warning. The raindrops are huge and dense, pounding the ground. The rooftop emits loud crackling sounds. White steam even rises from the ground. It truly feels like scalding water falling from the sky. The storm temporarily eases the extreme heat, but brings a new disaster: terrifying floods. The rainfall is astonishing. The drainage system has long been paralyzed. Water rises rapidly, soon flooding the streets. 1 story, 2 stories. Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei, through a real estate agent, with great effort, finally got the approximate address of my villa. The rain is pouring heavily, showing no signs of weakening. The murky flood has already covered the second-floor windows. Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei huddle in the last relatively dry corner on the 3rd floor. Listening to the rain sound like thousands of horses galloping outside, and the sound of flowing water. Their hearts are filled with despair. Hunger and thirst, like 2 venomous snakes, gnaw at their willpower. All the food in the house has been scavenged clean. Even the last few dried flowers for decoration have been stuffed into their mouths and chewed, but only brought a stronger feeling of nausea. Zhang Hao slumps onto the dust-covered floor, staring blankly at the windows constantly pounded by rain. The former high spirits have been worn away by the harsh reality. "A boat. We need a boat," Zhang Hao mutters to himself. His voice is hoarse, like sandpaper scraping. "Otherwise, we'll all die here." Lin Weiwei leans against him. Her carefully styled hair is greasily plastered to her cheeks. Her expensive dress is wrinkled and stained. She licks her chapped, peeling lips. A raspy sound comes from her throat. She doesn't even have the strength to cry. "A boat. Where can we find a boat? Even if we had a boat, outside, it's raining like boiling water. How can we have the strength to row?" The two stare at each other in silence. Only heavy breathing and the endless rain outside remain. "Go find me." The thought seems like a distant dream, separated by life and death. I think their idea is pure wishful thinking. In this environment, hunger and weakness have drained their last ounce of strength. Surviving tonight would be a miracle. But the next morning, when the dim light seeps through the steamed-up windows, I saw something surprising on the monitor. Lin Weiwei is back. She's soaking wet. Her thin clothes cling to her body, outlining a pitiful figure. Her hair is a mess. Her face is pale. Her lips are purple from the cold. Her eyes are filled with indescribable exhaustion and a numbness after humiliation. Through the surveillance, I saw something surprising. Lin Weiwei came back. She was soaked through. Her thin clothes clung tightly to her body, outlining a miserable figure. Her hair was messy. Her face was pale. Her lips were purple from cold. Her eyes were filled with indescribable exhaustion and a numbness after humiliation. But in her hands, she was holding tightly a small bundle barely wrapped in waterproof cloth. She staggered up to the 3rd floor and collapsed beside Zhang Hao. Zhang Hao woke with a start. At first, he was dazed. When he saw it was Lin Weiwei and what she was holding, a greedy gleam flashed in his eyes. He lunged at her and snatched the bundle. "Food. Is it food? Where did you get it?" He frantically tore it open. Inside were a few packs of compressed biscuits, 2 bottles of water, and a few bags of the cheapest instant noodles. Before the apocalypse, he wouldn't have given these a second glance, but now, they were more precious than diamonds in his eyes. He couldn't wait to tear open a pack of biscuits and wolfed them down. The dry crumbs made him cough. He didn't care. He unscrewed a bottle of water and chugged it. Only after he had something in his stomach did he come to his senses a little. Only then did he notice Lin Weiwei's strange condition. She was just curled up there, staring blankly at him eating, without moving a muscle. Where did you get this?" Zhang Hao's tone grew suspicious. He looked Lin Weiwei up and down. Her clothes were wrinkled and even torn in places, and there were faint bruises on her exposed skin. A terrible thought crossed his mind. Lin Weiwei remained silent, burying her face in her knees. Zhang Hao's heart sank. A strange rage, mixed with humiliation, surged to his head. "Speak. Where did you go last night? Did you go to those?" Lin Weiwei was shaken like a leaf in the wind. She finally lifted her head, her face streaked with tears and rain. She looked at Zhang Hao, at his face twisted with anger and jealousy. She let out a bitter laugh, her voice hoarse. "Yes, I did go. But who is it for? Zhang Hao, you tell me, who am I doing this for? If you weren't so useless, I had no other choice. Would I have to stoop to this? You think I want this?" The pent-up grievance, fear, and humiliation finally erupted. She cried out, pounding on Zhang Hao's chest with all her remaining strength. Zhang Hao was stunned by her outburst, especially the word useless. It pierced his heart like a needle. He looked at Lin Weiwei's haggard, desperate face, then at the leftover compressed biscuit in his hand. A wave of guilt overwhelmed him. The two of them embrace and cry bitterly, not sure if it's for their tragic situation, I'm sorry, or for their already battered, I'm useless, and fragile relationship. I shouldn't have yelled in the face of the apocalypse. Tired of crying, I'm an asshole. I was afraid something would happen over again. Food and water temporarily ease their physical crisis and give them a glimmer of false hope. We have food. We have strength. We need to take a boat to find Chenyu. She must have more food there. Lin Weiwei nods blankly. The two start rummaging through everything, looking for anything they can use. Expensive solid wood furniture is dismantled. Empty water bottles are collected. Even Lin Weiwei's once cherished designer handbags, silk scarves, are now mercilessly torn apart. To tie, fill, and increase buoyancy, every action exudes a desperate madness. They no longer argue, no longer complain, only silent, mechanical labor remains. Because they both understand this is their last chance. They use every material they can find at home, wooden boards, empty water bottles, even Lin Weiwei's designer handbags and clothes she couldn't bear to throw away, taking apart and patching together, barely cobbled together a crude raft. The flood had already risen to the 3rd floor. Clutching their last hope of survival, they climbed onto the shaky raft. With some moldy hardtack they had found somewhere, they began their desperate journey to find me. I thought they would get lost in the vast flood, or be swallowed by the flood, by the dangers lurking in the water, but maybe it was the instinct to survive, or just luck. Just 3 days later, on the surveillance monitor outside the villa, I saw that tiny raft bobbing in the murky floodwaters, with 2 barely alive figures on it. The raft struggled toward my villa, and crashed into the reinforced wall. Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei looked up, through the thick bulletproof glass, and saw me standing inside, wearing clean pajamas, holding a glass of iced drink. They froze at first, and then their faces lit up with disbelief, joy, and desperation. They waved frantically, their mouths opening and closing. From their lips, I could tell they were shouting, "Help! Open the door! Some food!" I stared at them expressionlessly. Just as in the past life, they had stared coldly at my frail self. The villa's doorbell rang. I answered the video intercom. On the screen, 2 distorted, haggard faces pressed together. Zhang Hao shouted hoarsely, Xiao Yu, save us! Give us something to eat! Just a sip of water!" Lin Weiwei also cried, "Xiao Yu. We know we were wrong. We were terrible before. Have a big heart, please save us." Zhang Hao is shamelessly pledging his loyalty. "Xiao Yu, you're still the one I love most. It was Lin Weiwei who seduced me. If you just open the door, I'll be your servant forever. I only have you in my heart. Please, I'm begging you. Xiao Yu, give me a chance. I love you." I watch their pathetic act. I just find it incredibly ironic. But, actually, I'm quite interested to see them and their desperate faces when they see the food. I'm holding a plate just taken out of the space, bright red and shiny. The aroma of braised pork belly seems to come through the screen. I walk to the glass window and speak slowly through the intercom. "Do you want to eat?" Both of them are wide-eyed. Even though we are so far apart, Lin Weiwei and Zhang Hao can see clearly across the distance. They stare at the steam rising from my hand. They seem to see the most delicious delicacy in the world. They stare at the plate of meat, their throats moving violently. Like puppies, they nod desperately. Want, give us a little to eat, please. Xiao Yu, I want to eat. It looks so delicious. Xiao Yu, can I have a bite? I smile, my voice carrying clearly. No, you don't like this. You love high-end steak. Drink red wine. You care about quality of life. This ordinary home-cooked dish is not worthy of your refined taste. Oh, right. Are you still eating steak? In this weather, with no electricity, the steak must have spoiled. The steak must have turned sour, right? Chenyu, you're so shameless. Days of torrential rain and hunger had reduced Lin Weiwei and Zhang Hao to skin and bones. Their sanity was on the verge of collapse. When they used their last ounce of strength to drag the crude rubber raft through the murky floodwaters, struggling to approach my villa, which stood like a steel fortress, the last shred of hope within them, upon seeing that the villa was intact, with even hints of light and a dry atmosphere, quickly swelled into twisted jealousy and a frantic desire to take. Chenyu, open the door. We know you're in there. Zhang Hao was the first to throw himself against the reinforced steel gate, using his bony hands to pound desperately on the cold metal. His voice was as hoarse as a cracked gong. Chenyu, come out. You have so much food and drink. Share some with us. Would it kill you? How can you be so heartless? Inside the villa, I made another cup of hot cocoa, paired with braised pork. Awesome. I stood leisurely in front of the monitor, watching with great interest the show put on by these two drowned rats. The waterproof HD camera at the door clearly captured every trace of despair, greed, and hatred on their faces. Seeing no response from inside, Zhang Hao grew even more agitated. He started ramming the door with his body, but the door didn't budge. Instead, it jarred his shoulder painfully. Frustration made him even more furious. He began to curse wildly, saying whatever came to mind. Chen Yu, you knew the moths were coming, didn't you? You deliberately sold us the house just to watch us die. You'll die a miserable death. Lin Weiwei joined in the scolding. Her voice was even sharper and more piercing, filled with bitter venom. Chen Yu, you hick who only hoards junk food. No wonder Zhang Hao dumped you. All you do is hide and hoard like a rat. What else can you do? You'll never amount to anything. Having fun now, huh? Enjoying watching us suffer? You're sick in the head. Rain dripped down their dirty hair and cheeks, mixed with spittle sprayed from their excitement. They frantically shook the fence around the villa. It was made of alloy thicker than an adult's arm, deeply buried in the ground, let alone two half-starved people. Even if 10 more strong men came, they couldn't budge it an inch. Open the door, open up. Zhang Hao kicked the fence in vain. One of his worn-out shoes flew off, but he felt no pain, only endless rage and panic. If you've got guts, come out. Hiding in there, what kind of skill is that? Seeing the hard approach wasn't working, Lin Weiwei tried a fake crying tone, but combined with her face, twisted by hunger and resentment, it looked especially ridiculous. Xiao Yu, please, I'm begging you, for the sake of our past friendship, save us, please. We really know we were wrong. It was all Weiwei's fault before. Please, be magnanimous. In front of the monitor screen, I took a sip of warm, sweet cocoa. I just felt that the cursing and begging outside were as laughable as background noise. The more viciously they cursed, the more it proved their helplessness and inner defeat. Zhang Hao tried to find a gap in the door or any place he could use for leverage, but that bank vault level security door was sealed tight. Not even a piece of paper could fit through. He then tried to climb the smooth, slanted railing, but his weak arms couldn't support his weight at all. He slipped down as soon as he got a little way up, falling onto the raft, splashing water everywhere. Frustration made Zhang Hao let out a beastly roar. His eyes red, he paced around the raft like a caged beast, but found no way out. Lin Weiwei also stopped crying, staring blankly at the silent and solid fortress before her. Only now did she truly realize that between her and me an insurmountable chasm had opened up. All the curses, pleas, and blows ultimately dissipated in the torrential rain, without making a single ripple. I no longer paid attention to their desperate howls and curses, turned and left the window, returning to the warm interior. Seeing me leave on the monitor, the two were first stunned, then broke into intense argument again, blaming each other for their current predicament. Their voices were especially piercing in the storm. Zhang Hao suddenly punched the raft. Dirty water splashed up. Lin Weiwei, what else can you do besides complain? If it weren't for you insisting on coming back to China, insisting on meddling with me and Chen Yu, would we be in this mess now? I could still be with Chen Yu, at least have something to eat. Lin Weiwei is like a cat whose tail has been stepped on, retorting sharply. Zhang Hao, are you even a man? How can you say something like that? Who was it that used to complain to me every day, saying Chen Yu was a country bumpkin, had no sense of romance at all, embarrassing to take her out? Who said that as soon as I came back, you'd break up with her immediately? Now it's all my fault? Zhang Hao's tone falters, but he immediately becomes furious with embarrassment. Yes, I did say that, but I didn't tell you to rush into her house like that. I didn't tell you to, in front of her, put on a victorious face. If you hadn't pushed so hard, would she have seen through it so quickly, kicked us out so mercilessly? We could have taken it slow. At least, could have gotten that house and everything she hoarded. Lin Weiwei is trembling with anger. Her voice is filled with tears and sarcasm. Get it, Zhang Hao. You're still daydreaming even now, can't you see? Chen Yu, she's not the same, the naive girl you could manipulate anymore. Since the day you proposed breaking up, the way she looked at us has been off. You blame me for pushing too hard. Why don't you say it's because you're stupid, can't even charm a woman? If you had tricked her into being completely devoted, would we be here waiting to die now? Zhang Hao was hit where it hurt. His face turned ashen. I'm stupid. Yes, I'm stupid. My biggest stupidity was believing your lies. You said you were my one true love. You said Chinyu wasn't good enough for me. You, Lin Weiwei, besides this face, besides spending money, and pretending to be weak, what else have you got? When it comes down to it, you're more useless than anyone. Can't even count on you to find some food. Lin Weiwei's tears mixed with the dirt on her face. Hysterically. I'm useless. Zhang Hao, do you have any conscience? That half-pack of instant noodles just now. Who had the nerve to trade with those people downstairs? It was me. I smiled and played nice while they. What about you? You were hiding here like a coward, and now you say I'm useless? Back when you spent my money and took me to fancy restaurants, why didn't you say I was useless then? Zhang Hao's tone suddenly turned icy. Fine, you're useful. Your use was to drag me from a fairly stable boat onto this sinking wreck of a boat. Lin Weiwei, my biggest regret is getting involved with you. Lin Weiwei seemed completely shattered by those words. She slumped down and muttered, regret. Haha, I regret it too. I regret being blind and thinking you were a potential star. Didn't expect you to be worse than garbage. Can't even protect your own woman. The two fell into a dead silence, with only the endless rain outside the window. The earlier fight drained their last strength. All that was left was mutual hatred and bone-deep despair. Soon, news spread in the villa owners' group chat, warning everyone to be careful that strangers were approaching on rafts to beg. Don't open the door easily. I glanced at it. I didn't pay attention. I thought they'd give up or perish in their arguments and despair. But the next day, something even worse happened. Zhang Hao, somehow, managed to incite several families also struggling in the flood, neighbors short on supplies. He portrayed himself as a righteous avenger, exposing the wealthy and heartless. Facing those gaunt, greedy-eyed survivors, he shouted loudly, "It's this woman surnamed Chen. She knew the apocalypse was coming. She maliciously hoarded tons of food and water. Her house is packed with supplies, enough to last decades. She just wants to watch us starve and die of thirst, then profit from the disaster. We can't let her get away with it. Let's take back our food." Hunger and despair can easily devour humanity. Those who might have just watched, under Zhang Hao's incitement and extreme desire for supplies, became fervent and agitated. They paddled makeshift rafts and gathered outside my villa. They started smashing doors and walls with sticks and stones, cursing with foul language non-stop. Listen up, everyone, that woman inside is utterly heartless. Under Zhang Hao's hoarse incitement, the crowd gathered outside the villa, already red-eyed from hunger and despair, like dry kindling set ablaze, directed their overwhelming resentment at this strong fortress and me inside. Foul words like poisoned arrows, mixed with the rain, shot toward me. Hey, you vicious bitch in there, you hear me? Hoarding all that stuff, you planning to take it to your coffin? You rotten piece of shit. Watching us starve and die of thirst, can you sleep at night? You'll get what's coming to you. Open the door. If not, when we get in, we'll skin you alive and take all the food. Selfish bitch. You alone have enough food for hundreds of people. Where's your conscience? Plift, what a piece of trash. Why doesn't lightning strike you dead, you black-hearted bastard? These voices, filled with twisted hatred and impotent rage, they attribute all their misfortunes simply to my unwillingness to share, as if I'm the one who caused the apocalypse. I stand coldly behind the second-floor window, holding a frosty cream popsicle, slowly licking it. Seeing me so at ease, the people outside go even crazier. Zhang Hao sees that his words have ignited the crowd's emotions to the extreme. A flash of cruelty and madness passes through his eyes. He knows this is the last chance. He must strike while the iron is hot. He grabs a thick iron bar beside him, raises it high, and shouts hoarsely at the crowd. Talking reason to a black-hearted person like him is useless. She won't have mercy on us. We can only rely on ourselves. Everyone, let's go together. Smash open this damn door and railing. Take back the food and drink that belong to us, or we'll all die. Hunger and despair have long burned away all reason. The crowd, like a pack of enraged beasts, let out mad howls. They raise every weapon they can find, rusty hammers, wood-splitting axes, kitchen knives, even thick branches and bricks. Like a tide, they surge toward the perimeter of my villa, the sturdy security fence and heavy gate. A cacophony of harsh, jarring crashes immediately replaced the curses. A hammer slams against the alloy railing, leaving only a faint white mark. But the recoil numbs the striker's arm. An axe chops down, spraying a few sparks. The blade edge curls instead. A kitchen knife is even less effective, like scratching an itch, barely leaving a trace. The door remains utterly unmoved. The heavy thuds sound like beating a cowhide drum, muffled and feeble, only highlighting the impregnability of this defense. Zhang Hao shouts, red-faced and veins bulging. He personally jabs a metal bar at the welds of the railing, but the fine craftsmanship makes the welds just as strong. They, like tireless craftsmen, frantically assault the obstacle before them, but their efforts, against the absolute quality and advanced design, seem so futile and ridiculous. Continuous exertion quickly leaves the already weak people out of breath. Their movements slow down, those with cracked webbing stare at their bleeding palms. Confusion and fear begin to show in their eyes. I turn on the external broadcast, my calm voice carries through the speakers all around. Don't waste your energy. All the windows and doors of this villa are made of top-level bulletproof and blast-proof materials. The walls are reinforced. There's also a high-voltage electric fence. Out of pity for you, I haven't activated it. If you want, you can try the feeling of roasted meat. I paused and continued. Also, I've installed a linked self-destruct device. If the walls or main structure suffer significant damage, the fuel and explosives inside will detonate. If you don't believe me, go ahead and try. Let's see if your sticks are harder than the bombs. These words are half true, half false, but enough to intimidate this rabble. They exchange uneasy glances. I pause for a moment, then continue. My supplies only go to those who deserve help. My things are only for those who deserve help. Kind, grateful. As soon as she said that, on the surveillance footage, Lin Weiwei suddenly knelt down on the raft with a thud and sobbed toward the camera. Xiao Yu, I'm kind. I often help stray cats and dogs. I know you're a good person. Please help me. I'll repay you. I ignored her. When I saw not far away, on another, more dilapidated raft, several gaunt women, clutching children too weak to cry from hunger, with terrified looks yet gazing toward me with a glimmer of hope, I felt a tug at my heart. I opened a small window with a sturdy protective grill and threw 3 packs of compressed biscuits in their direction. The biscuits landed in the water. They frantically fished them out. They stared at the biscuits in disbelief, then excitedly kept bowing and thanking me. This sight left Zhang Hao and the people he had stirred up speechless. They watched those families who got food. Their eyes were complicated, envy, resentment, but mostly resignation. In the end, the group dispersed sulkily. Zhang Hao and Lin Weiwei's last-ditch effort had failed completely. Having lost their usefulness, they were driven away with disdain by the neighbors. The rainstorm and flood continued to rage. Despair was spreading. A few days later, through a surveillance camera in a public area that was still partially working, I saw the final fate of that scumbag couple. Fighting over a broken package of spicy strips that drifted from who knows where, they brawled like wild animals. Finally, exhausted, they both slipped into the murky floodwaters and never surfaced again. Their end vaguely echoed fragments of memories from my past life. Their ending vaguely overlaps with fragments of my past life memories. It's just that the roles are reversed, which is ironic. I turned off all unnecessary surveillance. I stopped paying attention to the chaos and death outside. My villa was like Noah's Ark in a storm standing firm. Climate control, ample energy, nearly unlimited supplies in the space, allowed me to survive the heat waves, storms, floods, and the ensuing disease and chaos. 5 years flew by in a snap. The apocalypse hasn't completely ended, but the worst phase is over. The frequency and intensity of extreme weather are gradually decreasing. Survivors are starting to rebuild order, though the process is slow and difficult. After 5 years of wind and rain, my villa is still as solid as ever. The vines on the walls wither and bloom in cycles, actually adding a bit of vitality. The black soil in the space has turned into a lush garden. Various vegetables and fruits ripen in rotation. Rice and wheat have been harvested countless times. I even keep several beehives and harvest sweet honey. Not only have I achieved self-sufficiency, but I've also stockpiled massive amounts of food, medicine, and supplies. Looking at this small kingdom that I built from scratch in the apocalypse, I feel an unprecedented sense of peace and satisfaction. That autumn the climate seemed to have finally exhausted its violent energy, becoming somewhat milder. Although the temperature difference between day and night is big at least for months, there was no recurrence of the extreme weather that could bake or boil people. Survivors began, like pupae after hibernation, to cautiously come out of their hiding places. Survivors start moving cautiously toward the chrysalis of the awakening. They carefully step out from their hiding spots, trying, on this scarred land, to rebuild the faint light of civilization. My villa became a silent legend in this area. Some say a witch who predicted the apocalypse lives here, hoarding enough supplies to rebuild a kingdom. Others swear it's been empty for a long time, just the automated systems still running in vain. I rarely show myself. When I must go out, it's always at dawn or dusk, piloting that silent hovercraft like a ghost. I placed the carefully prepared seeds and medicine outside the gathering points, not out of pure kindness, more like an observation. I want to see how these seeds of hope, amid greed, fear, and selfishness, in hearts not yet fully rid of them, would grow. Sure enough, the first few supplies I left triggered small-scale looting, even bloodshed. This was within my expectations, and it reinforced my belief in the need for caution. Later, a small community calling itself Dawn gradually formed, located on the outskirts of the city, in an abandoned school on higher ground. Their leader seemed quite capable. He initially set up a rule of trading labor for food, barely maintaining basic order. I started leaving more gifts strategically around their community's perimeter. And occasionally, using encrypted radio frequencies, I'd send anonymous tips on farming and hygiene. I became the mysterious seed sower in their stories. This distance kept me safe. Watching the signs of life outside, I felt that the dawn of hope had arrived.